Welcome to Dark Knight Films Reviews. I'm your host, Matt Spease, and today we're counting down the top 10 hypnotic villains in films. Now, this list will only contain dramatic films, horror films, or action-adventure films. There will be no animation in this, cartoons, or comedies. So, what is your list of the top 10 hypnotic villains in films? Let me know in the comments down below, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Starting at number 10, we have Desmond from the Hypnotic Eye from 1960. Desmond was played by French actor Jacques Bergerac, and he's a hypnotist who does a stage show. He calls up beautiful women up on the stage, and then he hypnotizes them with a flashing light device, which is known as the film's title, The Hypnotic Eye. Once he has them in a trance, he ends up secretly instructing them to come visit with him later. And then he programs them to disfigure themselves horribly. A couple of people go to his show. Marcy Henderson's character of Marcy and Mary Anders' character of Dodie. Dodie gets called up on the stage. She gets hypnotized. He secretly tells her to meet with him. She does, and she ends up disfiguring herself. Marcy becomes suspicious, goes to her detective boyfriend and his friend, a doctor, and they suspect that Desmond is causing the multiple women to do this, because he has done this to several women, but they don't have any proof. So Marcy volunteers to go undercover and find out for sure. She goes to his show again. He calls her up on the stage. She sees the hypnotic eye. She fights off its hypnotic control, pretends to go into a trance, but she's still affected by it somewhat. He instructs her to come to his room later. This is where she plans on going to the room to investigate, to find out what he's doing, and if he is fully responsible for this disfigurement of these women. When she arrives at the room, though, she's searching the room and finds a box, opens it up, and that's where the hypnotic eye is being kept. It begins flashing. She, this time, really does fall under his hypnotic control. And he comes out of the room and instructs her to go out with him and pretend she's having a good time at this restaurant, in which the detective and the doctor follow them. Later, it is revealed that it is his assistant, Justine, played by Allison Hayes, that is the one who is really the mastermind for this. Hence the reason why Desmond is so low on my list, because he is not working alone, and this woman is basically the reason he's doing this. He's a very weak villain because of this. Because I don't understand why he's doing it myself. I mean, why would you? I mean, even if Justine is his girlfriend and he loves her, why would you agree to disfigure multiple women in your hypnosis show? He questions her at one point.
How many more?
As long as there are faces like this.
That should have been his way out, but it isn't. And in the end, they do realize what he's doing. And they both end up being stopped once and for all. Desmond is killed, and Justine's character commits suicide. Turns out she was disfigured already. She looks beautiful. She wears a mask that covers up her hideous face. And that is why she's wanting all these women disfigured, because she despises their beauty. These women having beauty when she doesn't. So, yeah, he's the bottom of my list. Coming in at number 9, we have the Great Fiorelli from Devil Doll, 1964. The Great Fiorelli was played by Bryant Haliday. This character is a hypnotist and ventriloquist. He does a stage show where he will do a ventriloquist act. He will do hypnotism. His dummy, Hugo, is his former assistant in life. Now his soul has been transferred into this dummy. He ends up finding Marian, played by the gorgeous Yvonne Romain, and he ends up hypnotizing her and plans on using her as the new female doll to accentuate with Hugo. Fiorelli is sort of the villain of this thing throughout the whole thing. That's why he's higher than Desmond. But by the end, Hugo gets the advantage over Fiorelli and ends up transferring his soul into Fiorelli's body and Fiorelli's soul into the doll that Hugo's soul was stuck in. He didn't want to remain a doll. Hugo didn't. And when Fiorelli planned on making Marian, transferring her soul into this female doll for him, he destroyed the doll. He wanted to be human again. It's a very interesting film, an interesting story. Great performance, by Bryant and Yvonne Romain in this film. It holds a really special place in my heart because of that. But he's a little bit weakened by the end because of how his plans are brought down. But Bryant Haliday plays the character pretty good throughout the whole process of the film. So that is why he makes the list at 9. Coming in at number 8, we have Dijon from The Mask of Dijon from 1946. Dijon is a fake hypnotist / magician played by Erich von Stroheim. His wife is played by Jeanne Bates. Is named Victoria. She is like his assistant on the show and pretends to go into a trance and is a part of his act, doing all of his different tricks. He is older when the film starts, so he is not wanting to do the stage shows anymore. He is wanting to more really learn, to really be able to hypnotize.
You seem to think that there's a secret conspiracy going on against you. Please believe me, I'm not trying to hurt you, and nobody else is.
You couldn't hurt me anymore. Nobody can.
He's always studying books about hypnotism, the power of the mind, and later in the film, when he encounters a hold-up artist, he ends up hypnotizing him with the help of a flickering lighter. And then later on, he goes to a newsboy and does the same thing and finds it works on him too. But he wants to find out if he can use it to get someone to kill themselves or kill others. So he ends up hypnotizing one of the patrons at the local motel/hotel that he is living at. And it works. He orders the man to kill himself, and he does. And then he plans his revenge because he believes in his jealousy. He believes that Jeanne Bates's Victoria is having an affair with this club owner. Because he believes and he blames her for sabotaging a show that she conned him into doing.
I'm sorry. You should be pleased. You engineered this to make small of me in front of my wife.
Dijon.
You're crazy. You must be losing your mind. Why would I deliberately try to break up your act?
Didn't you?
You're always so ready to blame someone else for your own mistakes.
Tell me, please.
No, Vicky. I'll tell you why you flopped out there a few minutes ago. Because you're clumsy and out of practice. It's your own fault and you know it. You've lost your touch, you're through, you're finished, you're washed up.
Dijon.
In all of his jealousy, he decides to try and hypnotize her. He does. He successfully hypnotizes her and commands her to try and kill him. But the plan goes wrong, and he is eventually stopped. This film is really interesting and fun. It's a little slow moving because it is a 40s movie like a lot of these films were, but Erich von Stroheim does a great performance in here. And he's just really good as Dijon, and that's what makes this my number 8. Coming in at number 7, we have Stephen Torg from The Dark Tower, 1943. Stephen Torg is played by the awesome character actor Herbert. This character comes along at a circus looking for a job, ends up showing that he has hypnotic powers, and he uses them to stop a lion. The owner of the circus is so impressed with this that he hires him. He ends up becoming infatuated with the trapeze couple, female, Mary, and he plans to woo her into loving him. When she rejects his attempts, he decides to use hypnosis on her to get her to not only love him, but during their trapeze act to also sabotage Tom, her husband, so that he is out of the picture and he can have Mary all to himself.
It is true, isn't it? You would like to rest.
Yes.
Tonight, on the trapeze, you will be tired.
Yes.
When you are swinging with your head downwards, ready to catch Tom, you will be so tired. Say it.
I will be so tired.
You will not be able to hold him. Remember that.
Yes.
You must remember.
I must remember.
Mary is played by Anne Crawford, and she does a great job in this film. Her performance is awesome. This unfortunate character being manipulated by this awesome performance by Herbert Lom as Stephen Torg. Torg is the coin that he uses. Once he uses that coin to get her under, he can manipulate her by getting her to look at his face and look into his eyes, and get her to just follow his commands. Then he is eventually brought down because Tom doesn't die. Tom goes to the show and sees that Torg is putting his wife in danger, doing a dangerous stunt. He inadvertently shouts out, startling her and waking her from her trance, almost killing her. Torg tries to get down and escape, but the rope is cut and he is shot in the head by the sharpshooter Dora. Fitting into such an asshole villain. But he plays it so charismatically well, that's why he is on this list. Coming in at number 6, we have Gideon Drew from The Thing That Couldn't Die from 1958. Now this film, Gideon Drew is played by Robin Hughes. He is a warlock who was decapitated back in, I believe, the 1700s. And a crew of diggers happen upon his buried, decapitated head. They don't know what's in the box, but a greedy man named Boyd convinces a dim-witted ranch worker named Mike to open it up and get the riches out of it because he thinks there's money in it. But when Mike opens the box, he finds Gideon's head. Gideon places him under his control and uses him to kill Boyd to silence him. And they hide his body, and Gideon is planning to have his head reunited with his body. But Boyd's body is found by Linda and Jessica, played by Andra Martin and Caroline Kearney. And that spoils his plans. But not before Mike takes his head and brings it before Linda and puts her under his control. Then she hides Gideon's head in one of those hat cases or something. And Mike tries to attack the cops and is killed. So Gideon is so powerful he can make someone basically kill for them and kill basically themselves for him. Jessica is protected by a pendant that she wears around her neck from Gideon. But unfortunately, our boyfriend takes the pendant to try and get it researched to figure out what kind of power it might have. And when he does that, it leaves Jessica open, and Linda takes the head to her, and Gideon ends up placing her under his control as well. And he plans to use both of them to be reunited with his body, which they ends up finding and dig it up. But before he can fully be reborn, which they do, our hero, Jessica's boyfriend, ends up throwing the pendant at him, causing him to stumble back into the casket that his remains were in. And then he places that into the casket with him, which causes his remains to disintegrate. Very unique and interesting film from the Universal days that doesn't get a lot of attention, and I think it should. This was a really fun horror film. Unique storyline and everything. Great. Coming in at number 5, we have Svengali. This character has been played by many an actor in many different films. The character was created in the novel Trilby by George Dumanar. And his character has been played most memorably by John Barrymore in the 1931 Svengali, in which his leading lady was the beautiful Marian Marsh, playing the role of Trilby. Svengali ends up becoming infatuated with Trilby, and he ends up hypnotizing her so that she will run away with him, be his romantic interest, as well as taking advantage of her excellent singing voice by using her talents in the opera. Now, the best version of this is, of course, the 1931 version. There have been silent versions before that. There was one called Trilby from 1915, I believe, which cannot even be viewed, I don't think. But I've seen one, which was I think it was a Svengali from 1920-something, and it does not live up to the 31 version. This is the superior version to any of the others. There was one in 1954 starring Donald Wolfett in the role of Svengali and Hildegard Neff in the role of Trilby. And of course there was one that was released in 1983 which had Peter O'Toole and Jodie Foster, but they changed the They changed characters' names. They weren't even the same. The only hypnosis scene you have is some doctor hypnotizing Jodie Foster at the beginning to cure her smoking problem. And then she meets Peter O'Toole's character, and he just helps her to teach her to sing. You know, and it's not the same story. And nothing can top that original movie from 1931. Coming in at number 4, we have Fu Manchu. Now, Fu Manchu was created by Sax Rohmer in his novels, which he had many back in the day. And the character, I think, was best in those novels. But that didn't stop Hollywood from doing multiple films. He was played by Werner Olin in The Mysterious Fu Manchu in 1929, and then he returned in the role in The Return of Fu Manchu in 1930, and then he returned once again in The Daughter of the Dragon in 1931. And then Boris Karloff tried his hand at the character in The Mask of Fu Manchu in 1932. And then Harry Brandon played the role in The Drums of Fu Manchu serial, a 15-chapter serial released in 1940. And then they tried a TV series with Fu Manchu called The Adventures of Fu Manchu, starring Glenn Gordon in 1956. But the most well-known actor to have ever played this character is definitely Christopher Lee, in which he played the character from 1965 all the way to 1969 in the movies The Face of Fu Manchu, The Brides of Fu Manchu, The Vengeance of Fu Manchu, The Blood of Fu Manchu, and The Castle of Fu Manchu. That's a lot of history. The best out of all of these films that any of them did, in my opinion, is Brides of Fu Manchu, in which he has a really good plan here. He just does not execute it very well. He ends up taking the daughters of a lot of the big, smart geniuses, professors, and all this stuff around the world who have crossed his path and angered him. And he just uses them to blackmail these men into doing what he wants. Probably would have been smarter, if you want to get revenge on them, to brainwash them the way he ends up doing a lot of these women in this.
You have no will, no mind of your own. You will do only what I command you to do, even to death.
And then send them back to their fathers, or whatever, without them knowing, and use them to get them to do what you want. And that is how he was designed in the books more. Sax Rohmer's books were much better than these films, but the best, most well-known version, like I said, was probably Christopher Lee. Coming in at number 3, we have Gregory Rasputin. He was played by various actors throughout the years. Most notably in 1932, Rasputin and the Empress, in which he was portrayed by Lionel Barrymore. And Lionel Barrymore gave a very good performance in this, but it had its issues, just like a lot of the films from the 30s usually do. But it wasn't until 1966 when Christopher Lee portrayed the character, which I have already reviewed on this channel. I mean, the performances in this one with Barbara Shelley as Sonia, Suzanne Farmer as Vanessa, and Renee Asherson as the Tsarina are really well done. Just hurts. Rasputin never got Vanessa. Then they did a film after that in 1996 called Rasputin, Dark Servant of Destiny, in which they cast Alan Rickman. Should have been a great film, but unfortunately they tried to portray Gregory Rasputin as more a sympathetic figure in that film, which doesn't work as well. Historically, this is the only character, by the way, that I've mentioned so far that is really historically a real person in real, or was a real person in real life. And most of what you read about him in history is far scarier than anything ever put on film. Coming in at number 2, we have another literary figure, Dracula, played by various actors throughout the years. Now, this character is known for having the hypnotic abilities, of course, if the movies are done right. Not like today's movies. I mean, most movies today, if you get Dracula in your movie, he's not going to be done right. But some of the better Dracula movies were, Bela Lugosi's Dracula, of course, and then, of course, the Spanish version later on, which I've already mentioned in my universal ranking video. And then you had Christopher Lee's films, which are the most exceptional Dracula films ever, especially Taste the Blood of Dracula, Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, Horror of Dracula, and Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Those films are some of the best Dracula films ever. Now, you do have some really good ones from modern eras, like Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula, which it's good. It's a good film. Dracula doesn't get to be very hypnotic in it, but it's not a bad film. But, like I said, the best representation of Dracula using his abilities and his powers and everything of manipulation and mind control and hypnosis and everything is best done in the Christopher Lee films from the Hammer era. I have discussed that ad nauseum in my ranking video, so I'm not going to go over all that again, or the Universal. So just know Dracula is number 2. Coming in at number 1, we have Makata from The Devil Rides Out from 1968. Makata is played to excellent degrees of brilliance by Charles Gray. I have mentioned this in my full review of The Devil Rides Out and my ranking video for the top 10 Hammer films of all time. Now, what makes him the better hypnotic villain to me against someone as powerful as Dracula? Dracula is very powerful, and he can hypnotize, and he can get people to kill for him, and maybe turn other ones into vampires. But Charles Gray's Makata is able to place Nikki Orege's character of Tanith in such a hypnotic control that at one point when she is trying to escape from Rex, she is able to use hypnotic powers like Charles Gray can to get away from Rex. Not only that, Makata invades the Eaton household in such a charismatic, smooth way, coming in and talking to Sarah Lawson's character of Marie. He just sits there and just casually looks like he's just having a conversation with her, but little does she know that what he is saying is slowly but surely turning her mind to mush and making her totally obedient to his will. This scene is one of the best ever as far as hypnotic villains go. Not only that, but after he has her fully under his control, he just looks up to where Tanith and Simon are and uses just mental telepathy almost to make both Tanith and Simon attempt to kill Rex and Richard. That's powerful. So, and not only that, I mean, he sends demonic things after them because Peggy interrupts him when he's trying to get what he wants right there and wakes up Marie and snaps everyone else out of his control. He tells them, as he's leaving,
I shall not be back, but something will. Tonight, something will come for Simon and the girl.
and he keeps his promise. Later on in the evening, a bunch of shit goes down as he tries to get to them to get what he wants. This hypnotic villain is the most powerful, in my opinion. But what do you guys think? What are your top 10 rankings for the best hypnotic villains in film? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because it really does help my channel out a lot. Now, hope you've enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit different than what I've been doing in the past, but thanks for watching.